In 1994, the North American Free Trade Agreement, or NAFTA, created one of the world's largest free trade zones by removing tariffs on products traded between the U.S., Mexico, and Canada. But 20 years later, what does NAFTA's metrics reveal about its successes and failures? Here to help answer that question are UC San Diego economics professor Gordon Hanson and Dean of UC San Diego School of International Relations and Pacific Studies, Peter Cowie. Welcome to Evening Edition.
Pleasure to be here.
Gordon, NAFTA was signed into being with a lot of promise and hope. Highlight some of the economic impact it's had between the U.S., Mexico, and Canada.
Well, the biggest impact has been to deepen economic relations between the three countries. Today, there's over $1 trillion of trade between the United States, Canada, and Mexico. Canada is the #1 U.S. trading partner. Mexico is #3.
And Peter, what kind of regional industries have been either directly or indirectly impacted by this agreement?
If you look at San Diego's regional trading pattern, Canada is our top trade partner, Mexico is #2, and our specialization in technology is captured by things like Maxwell Technologies. Electronic components are shipped across the border to Mexico for being a major part of the electronics assembled in Baja. And that is the way that this trade arrangement works.
So would you say biotech industry or electronics, or would you say there's sort of an even grouping between that, produce? What sort of industries in general do you think are impacted?
The San Diego regional export profile is led by electronics, broadly defined, then followed by chemicals and pharmaceuticals. Agriculture and some of those other areas are much smaller. And in general, the U.S. runs a trade surplus with its NAFTA partners in those advanced technology industries.
I see. Let's talk about a concern here of NAFTA, and that was job loss of manufacturing jobs being moved from the U.S. Into Mexico, and then also farmers in Mexico going out of business, I should say loosely, or leaving the business because of increased competition. Have those job issues been addressed?
Not adequately. It is inevitable when you have a deepening trade relationship, which leads to specialization, that there's going to be displacement in labor markets, particularly in Mexico because it's moving from an agricultural to an industrial economy. But each country has a responsibility for having adequate labor policies to help with the readjustment of the labor forces. And Gordon and other economists have shown that the policies on the two sides of the borders have not lived up to that adjustment task. It's not the trade agreement that causes that lack of sufficient adjustment. It's the fact our complementary policies don't live up to the task.
Didn't support it. Now, Gordon, speaking of complementary issues, anyone driving across the border will tell you about long waits, and it seems those have increased with NAFTA, either because of supplies or trucks going back and forth, or more workers crossing back and forth. Was infrastructure considered during this agreement when it was first started, and has anything been done to sort of adjust either to the job losses or these infrastructure issues?
Well, a trade agreement is just the beginning of a relationship between two countries. And during the first 7 or 8 years of NAFTA, we really did deepen the relations between the United States and Mexico. 9/11 changed that. It shifted our focus towards national security. And the consequence of that was forgetting our Mexican partner in that trading relationship. We've come back to begin to try and address some of those issues, but not nearly well enough.
Okay, and Gordon, again, how could the lessons that we've learned over these past 20 years be factored into the talks of future trade agreements, let's say for the Trans-Pacific Partnership?
Well, when you have deepening economic relations between countries, there are going to be winners and losers. And we've learned about the inadequacies of our policies to help the losers from trade agreements adjust and to find new economic livelihood.
And Peter, what's your take on that? Do you think we could transpose these lessons we've learned from NAFTA and put them toward the TPP?
Right. I'd say that NAFTA has been superseded by other trade agreements, such as the one we have with Korea in terms of liberalization. And TPP is going to take those lessons from NAFTA going forward and then move it up to yet another standard. And that will be the backdoor for modernizing NAFTA, including in regards to labor and environmental standards.
Okay, well, we have a lot more on our website, kpbs.org. Gordon Hanson and Peter Cowie, thanks so much for talking with us.
Thank you.
Our pleasure.